Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 34 of the Alec Walt Show. I'm your host, Alec Walt, alongside another very special guest, and today we're going to talk about the New Orleans Saints. There's a lot going on between the Saints and star wide receiver Michael Thomas, so joining me today to talk about all of that and more is Michael Balko, the host of the Michael Balko Show and the man who just knows absolutely everything about the New Orleans Saints. Michael, welcome and congratulations on getting verified on Twitter.
Hey, shout out to the Alec Walt Show, baby. But yeah, I appreciate it, and I appreciate that intro, my man. It's been a long time, but I'm happy to be back on here.
So when I went on Twitter earlier today, I saw with Michael Thomas posted a tweet. If you haven't seen it, check it out after the show. What in the world is going on between Thomas and the Saints?
Man, listen, I don't even know, but it reminds me a lot of like some other drama that we've seen around the NFL, and we all know the inevitable ending, and it's that Michael Thomas more than likely is not going to finish out his contract as a member of the Saints. It's just not going to happen. I feel like the writing's kind of on the wall, and I've tweeted it a couple times, and I haven't gotten very good results from Who Dat Nation. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I am a diehard Michael Thomas fan. But the reality that Saints fans need to come to the conclusion about is just that, like, there's too much drama with that man right now. He got his money, and he's not like Alvin Kamara, and he's not like Drew Brees and these other guys who, when they got their money, they worked harder. Michael Thomas is the kind of guy who just seems like he's wanting to distance himself from the team, just collect his check and then just go home. You know what I mean? Like, he's already going to miss the first 6 to 8 weeks of the regular season because he delayed a surgery that should have been done right after we lost the playoff game. You know what I mean? So it's just like there's absolutely no reason why this surgery should not have been done longer, and there's no reason why he should have been ghosting the Saints other than the fact that they're having a lot of issues with Michael Thomas. The Saints, I feel like, for the most part, have done a pretty good job of keeping whatever issues they're having in-house because we haven't found out a damn thing until just now, which is insane to think about. But, yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation overall. And then it would have been really nice to, just kind of known that a little bit sooner. Maybe, I don't know, man. It just makes all the speculation of like Michael Thomas potentially being traded this offseason for a guy like Aaron Rodgers or Deshaun Watson, that next big quarterback. It makes it just kind of wish it already would have happened. And then all of this would have came out and it would have made more sense. But instead, we're looking at it in hindsight. We're like, man, like hopefully we get Michael Thomas back at some point this season, and maybe he still has some trade value and everybody else doesn't just write him off as a complete diva. And then, you know what I mean? It just reminds me a lot of like the Odell Beckham Jr. situation a few years back. It reminds me a lot of kind of Deshaun Watson's situation. And honestly, it reminds me a lot of some situations that are yet to come, kind of a little bit of Aaron Rodgers situation, but it was handled a little bit more maturely in Green Bay. So I don't know. It's definitely it's a good thing to like be tuned into. And it all kind of started back when Michael Thomas was like tweeting too much and, just kind of putting his opinions out there too much. Cause it's just not the New Orleans Saints way of just like going about themselves. The Saints are like a low key, like under the radar team, like a chip on the shoulder kind of team. That's kind of the way they always have been, at least in the Sean Payton era. And Michael Thomas, ever since, he set that record and got his money, man, he's been just tweeting away just crazy things and all sorts of things, man. He's turned it into a diva, which is not what the Saints are, nor that they want to portray, I might say. But yeah, it's just a lot right now, man. And then that whole cryptic message today, it just goes to show that there's some very, very obvious beef between the Saints and Michael Thomas. And who knows how long it's going to go about. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if any time we just got a breaking news story that Michael Thomas was dealt to somebody. It wouldn't surprise me one bit.
So say this breaking news happens. What is his value right now? Because you mentioned the injury. You mentioned the issues he has with his current team. Who knows what he looks like when he returns from injury. Maybe you want to see what he looks like for a couple weeks. How is he going to play? What is his trade value right now?
Damn, that's tough, man. His trade value, I got to say, is sky high. I mean, he's the best receiver, one of the best receivers in the league when he's healthy and he's on the field. Sure,
but he's not right now.
Right. He's not on the field right now. So, yeah, I guess you got that going. But, he's already he's already shown what he can do with a really good quarterback. So maybe like a couple teams that could be interested in him, or maybe like the Packers, maybe like I don't even know, man. It's so hard to even like really think about. I haven't even had time to process the latest drama, let alone think about where he could potentially be traded to. But maybe, who knows? There's just so many options available, I guess, that you could consider. Even a team like Atlanta, not that the Saints would ever trade him to Atlanta. Not the Patriots. The Patriots have plenty of receivers. Miss me with that. But I feel like the Packers or the Eagles could be two really like intriguing teams. Maybe the Chargers could be a good team. They got a nice young quarterback in Justin Herbert. But you got to say at least probably a first is definitely included in any deal. Maybe like a first and some good talent with it as well. You know, it really just kind of depends. This season is already like a big question mark for the Saints. I mean, we've already been hit with several injuries, several suspensions right off the bat. And then, you know, it's just one thing after another with this Saints offseason. And then the whole thing occurs. And then Will Lutz is going down with an injury, you know, and all of this stuff is just happening. So this could very easily be a throwaway season for the Saints. And, you know, shedding the contract of Michael Thomas could seem realistic. Maybe as soon as he gets activated off his injury, we're looking at the trade deadline. We'll see where the Saints are. If they're good, somehow, some way, Michael Thomas automatically holds very little to no value to the Saints at that point. If the Saints are good without him, what is the point of paying him? You know what I mean? It's just like, you know, so like that point, you know, we could consider trading it. If the Saints are struggling and it's obvious that, you know, like we need that number one receiver back, yeah, maybe we could feel him out and just keep him the rest of the season and then explore some options in the offseason. But, yeah, like I just said, like if the Saints are good around the same time Michael Thomas could be coming back, there's no reason why we couldn't potentially trade him this season. I don't think anything's going to go down until he's back and healthy and we can kind of evaluate where we're at during the season. But it's hard to tell. I mean, I'm hearing mixed reports right now. It's just that ever since Michael Thomas has like come back, you know, he's been nothing but like a gentleman and a hard worker and things like that, which is what he's been known for, which is why this whole like past couple years of him turning into like this diva is like so surprising, because that's one of the things that I admired about Michael Thomas, you know, and everybody else in Who Dat Nation admires about Michael Thomas is that he's always been such a hard worker and he's always put the team first until recently, it seems. So it's just so crazy and it's just so much going on all at once. But, yeah, I think a lot is just going to depend on how the Saints look around the midseason point.
All right, well, let's talk about that. Packers, Panthers, Patriots, Giants, Washington, Seattle, Tampa.
Hear a lot of dubs in there. Hear a whole lot of dubs.
Okay, I hear one for probably Panthers, Giants. That's not an easy schedule.
It's not. The Saints actually have one of the hardest schedules in the NFL this year.
I mean, that's why, like, so realistically, I just read you your first 7 weeks or so, like around the time Thomas could potentially come back. What do you guys be? Maybe 3-4?
Yeah,
3. Like, is that enough to give you the like? What are you going to look like when he's coming back?
Honestly, I'm not going to lie. If we're 4-3 after that schedule, I'll be very happy as a Saints fan, because there's some tough games in there, man. Like, it's just crazy. I don't know. We'll see. I think definitely the Panthers is a win. I think the Giants is a toss-up. Who else did you say? Packers? That's a loss, I think, for us. Patriots. That's a toss-up, I'd say. It just depends.
In Washington.
That could be a loss with their defense.
In Seattle.
That's a win.
Seattle's good at home.
Yeah.
Home against Tampa.
So that's another.
It's not an easy schedule. It's not easy.
Yeah, no, it's not easy at all, and it never really is for the Saints. That's the thing. It's just like we always seem to have a pretty difficult schedule for the most part, and we still manage to somehow make it work. I mean, excluding the whole Michael Thomas situation, we do have one of the best backfields in the entire NFL right now. So we got that going for us. At least we have a very good offensive line that's healthy. Our offensive line is looking as good as it ever has before. And honestly, you know, we have a question mark at the quarterback position, but I don't see any reason why we're not going to be a run first team this year. I know I mentioned that in a tweet a couple weeks ago, where it's like we're probably going to see the most like ground and pound Saints offense that we've ever seen before, especially in the Sean Payton era. We just don't really have a quarterback that is trustworthy enough to throw the ball down the field 30, 40 times a game. We just don't right now. I could see us maybe having much more of like a screen type of offense with Alvin Kamara, and then like a boom and zoom type of offense between like Kamara and Latavius Murray, just, ground and pound, man, because that's what's going to be what wins us games this year. We don't have any receivers. We haven't really gone out to try to get many receivers other than Chris Hogan. I mean, N'Keal Harry's available for trade. We're not really actively pursuing that. There's a bunch of guys that seem to be available that we're just not going after. And it just kind of just leads me to believe that we're probably going to be a run first team, which also kind of leads me to believe that Taysom Hill has a pretty good shot at winning the starting job just because he knows the system a little bit better and he has wheels of his own. So it's just with all of that, like kind of being out there on the table, it's just, I don't know. I think we're going to have a very versatile offense. I think we're going to have, I think we're just going to wheel out the best 11 guys that we think have the best shot at just squeezing by, sneaking by, getting us wins, I think we're going to have to bank a lot on our defense this year, and the addition of Quan Alexander coming back is huge for us. But yeah, man, I think it's going to be a very questionable Saints season to say the least. So we'll see.
So say Michael Thomas doesn't get traded. He's on the team midway through the season. You guys figure it out. He's on the roster. How has he felt now between fans after going through some of these issues this year? Like, is he going to be obviously welcome back, or are there still some fans who are a little bit hesitant just because of his behavior recently?
I'd say the majority of Saints fans don't give a single damn about this whole situation, if I'm being completely honest with you.
I was hoping you were answered that way.
Yeah. I don't think they care at all, which is a little bit concerning as a Saints fan because, I mean, anybody who's in the Saints media, anybody who, covers the Saints to any extent, they can just kind of put two and two together that the writing seems to be on the wall that Michael Thomas won't finish his contract with the Saints. We've seen it. We saw the same similar situation with Jimmy Graham, somewhat recently. It was forever ago, but it still seems like yesterday. Jimmy Graham was unhappy with having to be paid as a tight end when he played a lot of slot receiver, outside receiver when he was with the Saints. And he got traded to Seattle for Max Unger and a pick. So, you know what I mean? It's just like it seems, with Michael Thomas being unhappy with whatever he's unhappy about, it could be the current quarterback situation. It could be, the Saints consistently losing in the playoffs. Who knows what he's unhappy about? I think that's the big question mark. Maybe it's just the way he's been treated compared to other people. Who knows? You would think that, our guy that's being paid $100 million and is locked up for 5 years would be the happiest person on the team because we basically put all of our money into him to be that face of the franchise. So I think if anybody has the right to be unhappy, it's the Saints and not Michael Thomas. And I think Sean Payton is starting to grow increasingly frustrated with Michael Thomas. But I think that's also, his contract is probably the reason why he could stick around with the Saints is because we already made that investment in him. We have him secured for a few more years. We're going to try to make our amends and make it work. And I think, as long as he can come out and perform and play well for us, I don't see any reason why, it won't just be all put behind us, things like that, and we'll be good to go. But yeah, I think, as long as amends are made and, nothing else really comes of this whole situation, I think it'll be fine. And I think, there is a shot that he could finish out his contract in New Orleans, but, we would need those amends to obviously be made quickly, and hope, a lot of it's going to just kind of depend on how he treats his rehab and stuff like that as well. If he's just half-assing his rehab, then, you know what I mean? The Saints are like, oh, he really just doesn't care. And especially if he has any sort of setbacks or anything, that's going to make the Saints second guess. It's just a lot's going to just really depend on how Michael Thomas handles this treatment, because he just went through the same thing a season ago. And, just his lack of communication with the Saints and everything. He's already in a bad spot, but it's so hard to tell right now, man, because there's mixed reports, like I mentioned earlier, that, he's being a gentleman and working his butt off whenever he's in the facility. And then this whole situation is brought to light. And then now we're just like, well, what is he actually doing? And it's so hard to tell right now what's going on with him. Hopefully it's nothing like in the head. Hopefully he's just good. You know what I mean? I'm genuinely kind of concerned for his well-being because he literally coming out of college Urban Meyer himself was like, this is the hardest working kid I've ever had at receiver. You know what I mean? And we noticed that his first couple years in New Orleans, we're like, oh, damn, like this kid is our new number one guy. Like he drove Brandon Cooks out of town. Like Brandon Cooks was our guy back then. You know what I mean? So it's just, I'm starting to get a little bit concerned. I don't know if it's the fame. I don't know if it's the records. I don't know if it's the money or if there's actually genuinely something wrong with him and his well-being. But hopefully everything gets figured out and we can have Michael Thomas out here snagging passes from Jameis Winston.
With still the uncertainty, though, what are your realistic expectations for the Saints this upcoming season?
I could see us finishing realistically second in the division. We could miss out on the playoffs. We could make the playoffs. If I'm being 100% honest, I think, the Saints probably have a pretty rough year. Obviously, I don't want that to happen. I'm a Saints fan. I'm probably going to get attacked by Saints fans for saying that, but I'm just being 100% honest. The Saints have, I think it's one of the top 3 hardest schedules in the NFL. We already have our best defensive tackle out the first, I think, 6 to 8 games. I don't remember what his suspension was. David Onyemata, he's out. It's nice that we have Quan Alexander back, but who knows how well he's actually going to perform. I mean, he's very, very light in practice right now. We don't even know if he's going to be ready for the opening game. And then we have Marshawn Lattimore facing a suspension, and then we brought in a couple corners, but they're old as shit. We have Paulson Adebo, who I'm really excited about. That's my favorite pick of the entire draft. He's probably my favorite player on the defense, if I'm being honest. So I'm excited about that. But, a lot of people were very unhappy with Janoris Jenkins being released. And, I mean, I'm a bit unhappy about it, too. There's no reason why Janoris Jenkins should have been released. He was barely a cap hit for us, especially now that you look at it in hindsight. We're like, well, damn, now we have like $5 million in cap space. There's no reason we couldn't have kept Jack Rabbit in town. And, a lot of it is obviously going to depend. I think a lot of everything is just going to depend on, how well our offense performs, injuries, the same thing. But, the Saints are already being hit hard by those. So it's just really a lot of it's going to come down to how well Sean Payton coaches what he has. Yeah, man, we just got to kind of next man up mentality, as cliche as it sounds. That's going to be the stereotype and the storyline for the Saints all season long is next man up. Like we're starting off our season, I think it's with like 11 new starters is what's being projected right now. So we're going to need a lot of guys to step up. We're going to need a lot. We're going to need a lot to be successful, and especially to dethrone the Tampa Bay Bucks, who are returning all 22 starters. So.
Some of the other games, like you mentioned, their schedule being tough. Some of the other games on the schedule we didn't mention earlier: Titans, Bills, Cowboys, Buccaneers, Panthers again. So it doesn't end after week 7 with some of those tough matchups. So you guys got a tough road ahead on the 2021 season. Before we let you go, Michael, any certain players on the Saints that have stood out to you so far at camp?
Right now, I'm just kind of banking on other people's reports. Some of the superstars of camp have been Marcus Davenport. He's been outstanding from what I've heard, which is clutch. I know I talked about it on one of your earlier shows that we should trade Marcus Davenport and how he'd have some good value, which I think he would still, but I think it's probably best to keep him in town now. Marcus Davenport's just lighting it up. And it's nice because he can play like defensive tackle and defensive end as well. So that's good. Jalen Dalton, defensive tackle, has been looking very, very good. He's been on the Saints. We signed him last year, but he was injured in, I believe, OTAs. And so he never got to play with the Saints. But he's really stepping up and is kind of emerging into that number 1 defensive tackle spot, it's looking like. I'm hearing Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's looking great as usual. Marquez Callaway's looking good. Jameis Winston's looking pretty good. Yeah, man. So we got some guys stepping up, so that's good. Juwan Johnson, receiver / tight end, whatever they decide to put him at. He's looking good. I'm excited for Adam Troutman and his role as the new number 1 tight end. I'm really excited for Zach Bond to take over as like that edge outside linebacker type role. There's a lot of guys I'm excited about. I think, honestly, like it's a very question mark season. I have no idea what to put like for this season. I have no record prediction right now. It's just too hard to tell. Maybe I'll know a little bit more after the first preseason game, But then again, probably not because it's just a preseason game. It's just really a lot of it, in my opinion, is going to come down to who wins the quarterback battle between Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. More than likely, I'm hearing that it's probably going to be Taysom Hill starting the season at quarterback just because he knows the offense more. For some reason, Sean Payton just absolutely loves him, even though he led the league in turnovers last season, despite only playing in like 12 games or something. I don't even know. But he'll probably lead the team, or he'll probably start at quarterback for the team. And, just his versatility is going to be useful at quarterback, I'd say, especially if we are a run-first team. And people are forgetting with all this Michael Thomas news that we have Alvin Kamara still, who is also locked up for a long time, and he's not a diva at all. In fact, he likes NASCAR now, which is sweet. So we have a lot going for us, I think. So, yeah.
Good. Well, you should be very excited. It should be an unbelievable season coming up. The preseason starts next week, so we got plenty of weekends ahead of some NFL games, so I'm looking forward to it. I know you are as well. Before we let you walk, how can our listeners keep in touch with you on social media, listen to your shows, and everything like that?
Yeah. So my podcast is called The Michael Balko Show. You can find it on every streaming platform you listen to, YouTube, Spotify, all of those, Apple Podcasts, the whole 9 yards. Got you covered there. You can find me on Twitter at Michael Balko Jr. You can find me on Instagram at michael.balko. Yeah, hit me up if y'all ever have any questions or anything. Love to interact with you guys.
All right, man. Thank you very much for joining me on the show today. That was fun.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Alec Walt Show. I'm Alec Walt alongside Michael Balko. What do you think of the New Orleans Saints and Michael Thomas? Feel free to comment that below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Down the Block Sports for more of my exclusive content. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon.